What's going on, guys? It's Nick and Anthony, and we're the Poli twins. We've been physical therapists for 6+ years. Now we really specialize with hands-on work from a physical therapy perspective. The goal for this video is going to be to any aspiring healthcare professional to kind of lay out some expectations maybe we had expected when we were going into this field, give you some life lessons that we've learned as a physical therapist so you can have a better sense of direction as you head down this journey, down this path. Let's get into it.
Advice to young aspiring physical therapists in college.
I wish that I had more of a financial understanding of what I was taking on compared to what I was gonna get paid starting out in that progression of PT. Piece of advice for my younger self would be look into scholarships and really look into the full picture of what that price is gonna be going into those 3 years of grad school. There's a better financial opportunity that you could do, and I know I had the opportunity to do, but I chose that my senior year of undergrad was important to party and not actually do the shadow hours at a hospital so I could apply to a cheaper school. Probably the biggest financial regret in terms of student loans was that senior year of undergrad where my thinking and judgment was like, no, I'd rather have fun. Why would I go and do 50 hours of shadow hours at some hospital? No, that's not for me. But Nick was fortunate enough to take advantage of that, saying, hey, you definitely need to go do those hours so you could definitely apply to this school and potentially have a better financial positioning than I did coming out. Honestly, if I had the choice and I was picking between 2 physical therapy schools, I would always pick the cheaper one because I don't really think that the difference is that much in terms of what they're teaching you, because they all want you to pass the boards. And once you pass the boards, it really does not matter. It's gonna be hard. You might as well go for it. Create the job that you want. You don't have to take the job like, oh, okay, I've been working on, 20 clients a day. Like, you don't have to do that. If you don't like it, go create the life or the physical therapy clinic that you want. If you do that, you're gonna enjoy your job.
What inspired you to become physical therapist?
Adrian Peterson had just went through his ACL rehab and then ran 2,000 yards the following year after rehab, and he had set records. He had thanked a bunch of people in his SB award speech, and one of the people that he had thanked was his physical therapist. As we're sitting in this athletic training class saying I don't know if this is the path, that kind of sparked that, oh, well, he did mention it and he thanked his physical therapist. There's more of a direct connection with an athlete's rehab. And since we weren't really playing sports ourselves, that was one way of actually being still tied with some of these high-level athletes. The AT was saying when an athlete gets injured, there's a time where you take that athlete and you refer them out to the physical therapist. So in that mind, we're thinking well, let's cut out the middleman. Let's actually be the guy that they come to directly for rehab. I love the human body. It still drives me today, learning how to maximize its potential. Ever since high school, we were learning about oh wow, okay, if we do this exercise, your biceps grow. If you eat this way, this helps it out. We were always trying to get to that, building up the body. I feel like we had an obsession with the human body. We still do to this day.
What was the most surprising part as a new physical therapist?
What was very surprising was we come out, you realize how little you know. You go through school for 3 years and it's intense. You're learning about all these different fields in physical therapy because you can go hospital-based, you can go subacute / nursing home to outpatient, which are working injuries like orthopedic. So you learn such a wide spread of things. Then you go to a job and you're okay, I'm gonna work with injuries of the human body. You have a patient in front of you, you're wait, I don't really know exactly what's going on, and you do some tests if this is injured, but you get to a certain point where you can even diagnose it, okay, this is labrum tear. But then I didn't learn how to really treat the injury. I learned how to diagnose it, but I didn't learn how to actually treat the injuries. That was difficult and surprising. Just coming out of PT school, passing your boards, you're so excited. That was one of the hardest, most memorable accomplishments in your life. And then you go into working, you're applying for jobs, you got a job, you're excited. Maybe it's not the same or the price you thought you were gonna get in terms of a salary of what you were gonna be getting paid, but you know what, you don't care, I'm ready for this. In the outpatient setting, when you're just starting out, you're seeing so many people in a day, but even in just a small period of time, how Am I gonna treat this person? And I also have 2 other people that might be in the clinic and I need to give them exercises, I need to give them attention, I need to give them care. You're just like, you're juggling it all, trying to get through the day and get everyone the help they need, and you would get out at 3 or 4 and you're like, I'm not as ready as I thought I was gonna be.
What was the most challenging lesson as a young physical therapist?
You're not going to get everybody better. This woman had a neck injury. I'm doing some soft tissue work, trying to get her better, and she wasn't getting better. One day she didn't come back. 2 to 3 months, she ended up coming back to me. I asked her, like, oh, how's your neck injury? And she's like, he went to this chiropractor, he figured it out and got rid of my problem, and then she came to me for a different injury because she wasn't getting help by the chiropractor. I learned that I can't help everyone, but there will be someone out there to help that person. There's one specific patient that I'm thinking about in my career, my first job. It happened multiple times. I was helping this person. So he came, did the evaluation, we gave some exercises, and you can tell that he was getting frustrated. And then he came a second time and he's like expecting a little bit more. And I'm giving as much time, I'm trying to explain the best that I can, as a first year PT. Maybe the confidence wasn't as like sky high, and happened to be a busy day that third time. I just had a feeling he's gonna make appointments and then this canceled. And that's exactly what happened. But there's only so much in your control. Like, you know what, I guess maybe he can find something better and he'll go into another PT clinic. But when I put myself in his shoes now, there's an expectation, like, you gotta be an advocate for your health. And if you're not getting the time that you think you need to get better in that clinic, I think I would have done the same thing. But in that moment, as a people pleaser, you just want to make sure you get everyone better, and it feels like it's a reflection on you, but it might just be a reflection of the environment or the clinic itself. I have more respect and I understand his position now, but in that moment, as my first year PT, I'm just like, it must have been something that I did. When you're young and someone's not getting better under your care, you really take it personal. But honestly, you don't always know what's going on outside too. There's so many factors. The more we learn about health, you're like, wait a second, it's not just like, exercise, it's diet, it's, sleep. Maybe they're going through a divorce. There's so many things that are factors that you just don't know.
How did you handle setback early on in your career?
I would go home, I would kind of be, moody, I would be a little upset. It was not pleasant to be around. But then at the same time, coping mechanism is always to dive deeper. That's how I always handle it, and that would make me and my ego feel better. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna use this as a learning experience, so if it happens again, I'll know what to do. I would put my head down and work harder was my coping mechanism. My first job, you were so busy that you didn't really have time. It was like, oh, the next patient's on your schedule and you have to block it out. Maybe at the end of the day, you could think about it and you just ask other physical therapists that were in the clinic. You can get kind of tips on what they would do in that situation that could help you in the future, but there wasn't much time. And you're so fried at the end of that day because you're helping so many people that you just need to kind of turn off. But then as we moved on in our careers and we gained more time, I think it really transitioned to that. I'm gonna study up on this a little bit more, or I'm gonna actually really learn from a mentor, sit down, talk to him, or I'm gonna shadow a session to see what they were doing for a similar client or a similar injury. As we gained more time, it made it easier to actually come back from a setback or a sense of failure. You're learning on the fly, you're not sitting and reflecting. And by the time you even have a moment to reflect, your brain's mush.
How do you find a good physical therapy mentor?
I would argue in terms of mentors, I would find someone in person that you want to emulate. Because if you don't know online, oh, I want this person to be my mentor, you really don't know if it's real or what's not. I had mentors that I worked with, people that were, above me that had 10 plus years of experience. And then I, watch how they treat. I'm like, can we have a sit down? I want to pick your brain on how to rehab. At that point, you might want to go a different way for oh, this person knows how to mentor shoulder. Ask to be his mentee and really ask him questions on how he's, rehabbing the shoulder. So you don't have to have one mentor, maybe one at a time, but then you can progress to different aspects that you want to learn. Now with social media and being online, you can find therapists maybe that are influencers or that have a big following and you get close with them, you can ask them as well. But it's all gonna be based on your field. You know, as you get into continuing education, maybe start seeing other therapists from other areas and they're all at the same sort of conferences. So you can start to get friendly with them and pick their brain. I mean, I didn't go out and say I needed to go online and meet with so-and-so and they know this really well. I think it starts with what you know, your classmates, your professors, your coworkers. You're picking their brain. If they're in the same field, they're going through the same thing. Start with what you know, and then eventually you may know other therapists or meet therapists who are running clinics, who are running continuing education, and they become your mentors. I hope that we laid out some expectations, even if you just take one thing from our lessons that you can then apply to your lessons and put yourself in a better position than what we have maybe started out. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be hard times, a lot of easy times, a lot of laughs, a lot of tears in some capacity, but again, it's all worth it, especially if you have the end goal in mind. There's nothing that can stop you guys. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.